There are a gazillion personal finance apps out there, maybe like 5 gazillion. I don't know. There's a million of them. One of them that I hadn't actually heard of before this conversation is called PocketSmith. Turns out it's 17 years old. That's like Paleozoic era when it comes to a fintech, a word that didn't even exist when it was founded. It is a New Zealand based company that operates in many, many countries around the world, including Canada. And they've got some interesting features that I hadn't seen in a budgeting app, which is why I booked time with CEO and co founder Jason Leong. He joins us from Dunedin, New Zealand. Now, I would love to say it was the middle of the night, but it's actually morning. Have you had your breakfast, Jason? Are you good to go?
I've fed the cats and I've had a coffee, so I'm raring to go.
Perfect. What is PocketSmith?
PocketSmith is software for the household CFO. And so if you know who that is, it's probably you. If you're wondering who it is, it's probably your partner.
All right.
And the household CFO is the unsung hero of the family who takes care of the household finances, the planning, the budgeting, the difficult financial decisions. And what we do is we understand that data is the lifeline for the household CFO. Getting that financial data, transactions, balances. It's how someone makes great financial decisions. But it is challenging to get because that data is fragmented across all these different banks and financial institutions, credit cards, and they're all in different formats, and it's very difficult to process. So what we do is we make it easy to get all of that data in one place so you can organize it. And we automatically pull this in from your banks into one place and let you see your whole financial position. Where we're a little bit different is that we don't believe that there's a one size fits all problem to solve, that personal finance isn't a one size fits all problem to solve. And we let you organize your money your way. And there are a couple of things you talked about there with forecasting as well. So,
The promise of data scraping, where you go out and
mm,
get those balances from the banks, and the practice of data scraping are very, very different in Canada. There's been a lot of glitches and burps along the way. How would
yes.
you characterize the current functionality for PocketSmith and the Canadian banks?
So we've been in Canada for about 12 years. And a couple of years ago, the Canadian banks clamped down on data sharing just for security reasons. You know, it's a good thing for the user. But that impacted web scraping, as you know, and that's impacted our ability to connect to Canadian banks reliably. We are hoping for open banking to land, and we know that's been in discussion since 2021. And we've got deep experience with open banking in regions like the UK and in Australia, and even here in New Zealand, where it's a bit like Canada. It's taking a while to come to fruition. Um, we, I guess that the what we hope to see is that by the end of this year, there's going to be some progress. But for the meantime, we probably have about 50% reliability for Canadian banks relative to, say, 90% with countries with open banking.
And is
But
the
we can backfill
50%,
that.
do you mean that half of the banks are willing to do this, or all the banks are willing, but they only get it right half the time?
Yes, the second piece, and we have a list of reliable banks, and we do publish them as well. And I think the word reliable banks is not entirely fair. It's just banks with reliable connections, but we do have the ability to backfill that with files if you want to, and so it doesn't take a lot to get a full financial picture. And we've written a blog post as a love letter to Canadians and explaining the situation. And we do have a special discount for Canadians impacted by this. So, what we recommend is come on in, try it, see what works for you. And if you have any hiccups, let us know and we'll take care of you.
The reason why I wanted to have this conversation was there was two functions in particular, but there's probably others that I may have missed. The first is cash flow forecasting. So
Mm,
it's one thing to track. Track is very much a present based and then past based activity,
yes.
but great financial management is an ability to wrap your hands around the future such that the decisions that you make in the present
Mm,
positively affect you in the future. Tell us about
mhm.
that particular function.
It's actually the genesis of our product. So we wanted to make something that would let us see how much we're going to have in the future. And PocketSmith gives you a daily projected balance up to 30 years into the future.
Wow.
And I made this in an actual calendar before we created the software because I just wanted to jump forward in time to see at any point in time what I was going to have and to see if I could afford to do the things I wanted to do. But most importantly, what could I change today that would impact my medium to long-term future? And I figured, well, this seems to be the most important aspect of financial management. So what we have today, sometimes we call PocketSmith a time machine for your money because you get to reflect at all of the data from the past. You can look at what's happening right now. You can track your current progress, and then you can see what's going to happen into the future. I think it's probably the most understated requirement of financial planning for households, and we're looking to champion that.
I talk about compound interest probably 3 times a day. It's just like my favorite notion. Does your function enable you to estimate a rate of return on savings? And then when you go 30 years into the future at, 6 or 7%, provided it's in the equity market, it'll show you the magic of compounding?
Yes, absolutely. Of course, it's a very simple, like we can't predict what's going to happen. So we can show you what a regular compounding interest calculation looks like. But what we can't do is to tell you what the market's going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's where, you sort of estimate for the near term. But it does show you how quickly your savings can grow
Yeah.
and how important it is to make these decisions at an earlier stage in your life.
The other function that I want to talk about is reminders. So, I talk a lot about strengths and weaknesses that people have, and a lot of people
Yeah.
have a great strength in income. They're really good at savings. They're
Mm,
terrible at organization. Like their credit score takes a hit because they just miss
forget
paying
pay
the
bills.
debt on time. How does the
Yes.
reminder function work within PocketSmith?
Very simple. You can set up a bill and then get PocketSmith to send you an email every day if you wanted to, or on a schedule. So you just basically get it to nag you to pay your bills. But the thing about PocketSmith is that it's there for you to customize it to do what you want. So you can have a dashboard with a handful of widgets, or you can have like a giant sort of space station level reporting dashboard to see everything you want, or you can make multiple dashboards, some for your bills, some for just the forecast, other for your net worth. And the main thing is just to stay on top of what you've got and not be afraid of it. So it's kind of a hygiene factor. So we try to make this as fun and as intuitive, as approachable for as many people as possible. And it's just a little bit different to your, 1 million, 1 gazillion tools out there. Just, it wraps itself around you, makes itself yours, and it grows with you.
I am a big believer in looking at your net worth at least once a year. It's not a difficult calculation to do. You can do it on a napkin. Tell us about how you bring together things that, the balance of your bank account and your investment portfolio. It's easy. You can scrape that can come on in. The value of your home and the value of your mortgage may not necessarily be as easy to put in there. How do you ensure that that net worth is inclusive, is holistic?
Well, yeah, we leave it up to you to decide, in fact, to start with what your net worth includes. So some people do want to have every single last item in there. I think what we probably take is a view that you want to track your net position. One of the challenges we see is that personal finance is such a huge scope that, it gets overwhelming. And so we encourage people to start thinking about some of the things they want to track. So if it's just your property and your vehicles and your accounts, the accounts are automatically tracked, but you can manually enter your homes. It's up to you to determine the value of that, and you can also determine the starting value. You can see if you can make your assets appreciate or depreciate if you want. So you can get really geeky with it. I suppose it's how long's a piece of string. It's about how much you want to do with it.
I have a brother, an older brother, who has been tracking every single penny for 30 years. So
I
he's
love
got
it.
all this data, treasure trove of data. He loves it. I am a personal finance guy. I've written a number of books. I host a radio show. Like I am in this world like almost nobody else, and I track nothing. I have tried
Oh.
Quicken. I've tried those websites over the years, and I have just a whole different approach to how I manage my money that doesn't involve tracking. What
Mhm.
would you say to someone like me who is just not sold on putting that level of rigor into this area?
I'd say you do you, and that's the main thing we want people to understand is that personal finance is hard enough as it is. This is a no judgment zone. it's not a zero-sum game either, in that you should find the right set of tools, the right thing that suits your vibe, because we're all so different. And what we do is celebrate diversity, right? So
Mm.
what's wonderful about money is that it is just a way to describe your ambitions, your dreams, your goals, and whatever you can find to support your journey towards living a better life. That's the one you should stay with. I think where we're concerned is when people are ignoring, the work that they need to do and the insights they need in order to make those decisions. And to your point, with compounding interest, are we investing right for our retirements at a certain point in time? Have those conversations and just be aware. So yeah, you do you, and just march on. And in fact, I'd love to someday learn what your system is, because we're
Yeah, very, very simple. Live within your means. Pay yourself first. Very
oh,
simple.
preach.
And
I
then
love it.
a low cost, diversified portfolio, and just let compound interest do 95% of the work. Yeah.
Sounds simple. Amazing.
Clearly, Jason, we are our values aligned in very many areas. And I
We
really
are all,
appreciate you
yeah, just,
taking the time.
don't get me started on lifestyle creep. That's the thing. That's the killer of wealth, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It really is. We need to live like students until we're 50, and then we're good.
Yeah.
Minus the roommates, I guess. Jason, thank you so much for making the time for us today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. I've had so much fun.
Jason Leong is CEO and co-founder of PocketSmith. He joined us today from New Zealand.